What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be installing the Rayscar Designs full frame gusset kit on my YXZ. I'm also going to be doing the front shock relocation kit. This is going to be a longer video because I'm going to show you where every plate goes, and there's just a lot of pieces. Yeah, but once I get this installed, the frame should be so much stronger, and then the shocks will be at a better angle. And I think I'm eventually gonna make my own shock relocation brackets, but that's after I get my CNC plasma cutter. I ordered it a week ago and it said 3-week delivery, so it should be here within 2 weeks. But I gotta do some things to get a little bit more power in my barn, and I gotta get a working air compressor. I have a compressor, but it's got some issues and I may end up having to buy a new one. I don't know much about air compressors, but once I get all that stuff figured out, I'm probably gonna try a rear shock relocation. Even if I make new shock mounts, I can still leave my old ones, so those are usable anyways. So it's just something that'd be nice to try on this YXZ, so I don't have to tear up my original YXZ. But let's check out the kit. Here is the Rayscar Design full frame gusset kit and shock relocation kit. There's a lot of pieces. They are all numbered. It looks really overwhelming, but that's because it is. There is a lot of pieces here, and a lot of welding, a lot of grinding, a lot of teardown. I just finally got this thing looking awesome with the new cage, the number plate. I got it all cleaned up, but now I got to tear it all down, and that kind of sucks. I like having 2 decent looking YXZs in the garage, but hopefully this won't be down for too long. I'm gonna try to do most of it today, but it might span a couple days or longer, hopefully not. But I'm just excited to get this thing ready to hit the trails. When I have the back plastics off, I have some small coolant leak that I can't find. I'm thinking maybe something cracked or broke when it was rolled over. Luckily, I saw that before we ever took it out riding. So I'm gonna kind of check that out and see what that's about. Hopefully it's nothing big, but even if it is, it's gotta be fixed before we actually hit the trails with it. There's some wiring that my brother-in-law had. He had some rock lights up here. He kind of just cut the wires on them. So there's some wires that are just hanging, and I'm gonna be, yeah, there's like this. I'm gonna be cleaning that kind of stuff up. So yeah, let's get tearing it apart. I think I'm gonna do the front end first, maybe put that back together, do the back end. I really don't want to have it all tore up. I don't want to intermingle all the pieces. I'm gonna try to keep everything as clean as possible. I've got bags here so I can label and separate all the different bolts so everything goes back where it's supposed to be. And one nice thing, once I take off the plastics, I'm going to be able to clean up the back sides of them, and this thing should be really clean once I'm done. Won't stay like that for long, but it's nice to do it while everything's apart. All right, let's get into it. All right, I ran into a little bit of a roadblock. You might not have this issue if you have a stock cage still, but being that I have the intrusion bars, I can't get this front plastic off. Like the ear goes too far around to go back, and then this bottom one goes too far around to go up. Some guys said they've cut the plastic here. I'm not gonna do that. I think it's worth the extra time to do it right, which sucks. That means I gotta take the cage off. I'm gonna try to just take the front bolts off, and then maybe this B-pillar bolt, and then just kind of move it up a little bit. I'm gonna try to leave the C-pillar on, and I'm hoping I can just kind of sneak it through and then set the cage back down. This cage is really heavy, and I really don't want to take it all the way off again. So yeah, that sucks, but not a big deal. I ended up having to take all the bolts out, unfortunately. I'm just gonna try to lift this one side off. There we go. Maybe this one will come out now. Oh yeah, kinda. All right, getting somewhere. I don't know if it's right. Okay. Boy, they could not make this look much harder. Well, that's not exactly the way I thought that was coming out, but it's out. All right, now I'm gonna put the cage back on so everything's in place when I weld this stuff up. All right, I've went through and cleaned the front end pretty good. I went through and looked at every little weld, every bar in the front end. Just since this thing has been rolled over, I wanted to make sure nothing was cracked or tweaked or anything. And I mean, this thing looks great. I don't see any tweaking. I didn't really expect there to be because I mean, it sits level. The frame went right back into place when I put the cage on. So everything looks good. I just wanted to double check once I had all the plastics off. So yeah, everything looks great. I'm gonna start taking the shocks off. I'll probably jack this up. I might bring the jack in from the underside. That way it's not in my way when I'm welding on this front end. All right, I've unhooked the battery terminals so nothing in the computer gets fried while I'm welding. All right, I've roughly marked up where I need to grind. I'm gonna start taking this powder coat off. It kind of hurts, but I'm gonna have to do it. I'm using a flap disc. That seems to be easier than a little grinding wheel. All right, I'm gonna start tacking it up. This is piece number 1. This is where it goes. I'm just gonna throw some tacks on it. All right, now I'm gonna be putting in piece number 7. For whatever reason, these don't actually go in order. All right, I need to put piece number 2 in here, but I'm gonna have to weld the upper part of piece number 1 because I'm not gonna be able to get to it once number 2's on. All right, I believe I've welded far enough. Yep, just far enough so number 2 can go on. All right, I got number 2 on here. I'm just gonna tack it into place. We'll put the shock relocation brackets on now. These spacers go where your original shocks were. It's just to support that bracket. So number 5 goes in front. It's got this rectangular hole. Number 4 goes in the back. These pieces here with tabs on them, this one says A and B, this one says C and D. These go in between here. There's little slots for them. Just like that. Now we got to tighten it up. All right, so we got piece 5, piece 4. These ones aren't numbered, but they do say A and B. These ones say C and D. So that's where those go. Man, that looks cool. These things fit up, I mean, really good. That's awesome. Once I get this all welded up, these pieces here go on the top, like that. All right, before I can put piece number 6 on, I have to weld in here in front of piece number 5 because that's going to get covered up, and then I'm going to tack the front of it, and then it gets bent down to the contour of this front frame here. I am gonna throw some clamps on here just to make sure this gap is perfect. I might do some tacking all the way around just to make sure everything stays in place and all squared up. Okay, I got piece number 6 in. I'm gonna tack it up here and then just bend it around. All right, before I put these top pieces on, I want to weld a little bit inside here. I think I'm just going to weld everything up and then I'll throw these on. So I think everything's tacked in place. It looks like how I want it. So I'm going to start welding stuff in. All right, I have most of this top welded up. So now I'm going to put these plates on. With this relocation kit, a little bit more leverage and pressure gets put on this shock mount here. Rayscar Design kit does a really good job of gusseting and strengthening everything. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I decided to make these gussets here out of just some 2-inch tube I had. I'm going to put one in the front and I made one for the back as well. So I just think it looks a little bit stronger. I mean, there's plenty here and it's not gonna move, but you know, peace of mind, I'm just gonna add those. I also made some tubes up. I don't have a notcher, so pardon my terrible pipe fitting, but I'm gonna put one here and one on the same place in the other side. That way it strengthens this frame a little bit. See, this beam right here is not connected at all to this front bar, and then the bottom is connected, but I think I'm gonna add another gusset down there as well. But see, I think this is an engineered crumple zone, which is why they didn't tie into this tube. They want it to crumple if you hit something. So I'm gonna put this bar about right here. That way, if you do hit something, it can crumple around this tube. I was thinking about putting it like right in front here where it would be probably the strongest, but I think that's too much strength in the middle. It doesn't have enough, you know, room to crumple. I think right here, it's got a nice little area where this stock tubing should bend right in if I actually hit anything, but you know, it shouldn't get tweaked in like a mild rollover or just lightly hitting something. So I'm gonna add those in. All right, these tubes are officially welded in. Getting to the underside of these sucked really bad, but I got them welded all the way around. I used some plate just to keep some heat off the brake lines and some of the wiring. But yeah, you know, I did some measurements to make sure that the front end fit on fine. It looks like everything mounts above here, here, and here. So I think we're good because it goes from here up to the dash. So I think we're good with those tubes right there. This is just some tubes I had left over from a dune buggy I was building. I've sold them since, but yeah, I just had some tube laying around, so it worked pretty good. It's a little bit thicker wall than the normal frame, but that's all right. All right, I threw the YXZ up on some jack stands because I'm gonna take this front section of the skid plate off. I'm gonna put a gusset from here to here. There's some kits like Crash Off-Road and Texera Tech, and I think maybe Hess makes one. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they're like some bolt-on kits. But I think I'm just gonna try to weld one solid, and I'm gonna have to cut my plastic on the rockers to get around that gusset, and I'll probably put something like maybe some bed liner or undercoating on them so they don't get tore up with rocks. I'm hoping that it's far enough in. I'm not gonna have any problems with running when I go with 30s or 32s. But I am planning on having a long travel, so hopefully that shouldn't matter. But yeah, kind of nervous to do this one, but I definitely think, you know, I need that gusset right there. I see a lot of YXZ frames tweaked in that area. I think it's a really important gusset, so I'm gonna do it. That's why I bought this one. This is my test one. That's my keep stock-ish one. So let's do it. I got this one all welded in. Now I'm gonna go to the other side. That looks really good. It fits with the shapes of the front end here. It does suck because I'm gonna have to cut the front plastics, and that's gonna be a pain, but I think I can make it look okay. I'm more worried about strength than looks at this point, but I really want it to look good as well. All right, I got all the plates and the welds and just dirt cleaned up. Some of these tubes had a little bit of a rust scale on them, so I got that off. I cleaned everything up. Now I'm gonna start taping off to paint. I picked up some painter's tape. I got this stuff. It's VHT roll bar and chassis paint. I picked the shiny black. It's hard to tell if it's kind of between flat and shiny. The cage is a lot shinier, but the frame's like a dull shine. I don't know if that's the right call, but that's what I got. For these lower bars, since rocks are gonna be coming off the wheels, I wanted to get something a little tougher. So I'm gonna try some of this rocker guard coating. It's chip resistant. It's supposed to be a more durable finish. It's made by Duplicolor. I've never tried this stuff, but I figured I'd give it a try. This is more of a flat color, but it'll be all right. All right, I got 2 coats of paint on the frame. It's looking a lot better. You know, I'm really not happy with this VHT roll bar and chassis paint. It does spray good. It has great coverage and it sprays far, so you can get really far inside this frame, which is good. But for some reason, there's like bubbles everywhere. I don't know. Like I wiped everything down with alcohol before I sprayed. I let it dry for an hour and it's still, like, I mean, some spots look pretty good, but it's all like pitted and it's really shiny compared to the frame. I'm just not happy with that stuff. But this stuff, the rocker guard Duplicolor, it's awesome. It matches the frame perfectly. It's got exactly the same texture. Like you can't tell where I've painted on the frame compared to the stock. I mean, it's just, it matches perfectly. So what I think I'm gonna do when this is finished drying, I'll probably scuff it up and put some of that rocker paint on the entire thing because it just looks a lot better. I'm hoping it sticks good. I don't really like mixing paint like that, but I just am not really happy with this. So yeah, but if you guys have a black frame on your YXZ, I would definitely get this stuff. I mean, it's a perfect match for the powder coat that's on the frame. While the front end's drying, I'm gonna start disassembling the back end here. All right, I let this thing dry overnight. Man, that stuff matches perfectly. I mean, you can't even see where the transition is from one color to the next. It matches the frame powder coat just perfectly. I'm so glad I scuffed this up and covered it with the rocker paint. That looks way better. That stuff has a really nice finish, and it's not like undercoating that's rubberized that never really dries. This stuff is actually dry, and you can't like squish your fingernails into it. It looks real nice. I really like it. Heck yeah. All right. Well, it's sitting on its own weight now, and the mounts didn't go flying off the frame, so that's definitely a good sign. All right, like I said, I was having some coolant leak, and I figured while I have the plastic off the back, I'd hook the battery back up and try to figure out where it was coming from. I think I figured it out. So you can see coolant falling right down there. It's coming from this hose right here. So I think I just tighten that hose clamp up and I'll be good. All right, I'll take the exhaust off. The Trinity exhaust doesn't use this back exhaust mount, which is strange. It's going to be really important, since we're cutting and grinding, to block off these exhaust holes here so we don't get anything in the engine. Ideally, these don't catch on fire. Bit of a pain to get these shocks out of there without taking the wheels off. All right, there we go. Ow. All right, this is the left side. Oh, really glad I could smash my finger on that exhaust mount, and it felt good. All right, I'm told that it's helpful to unhook this brake line. There we go, and then just try to lightly pop it out of this. All right. All right, before I put these shock mount gussets on, I'm gonna have to do some welding and bending off of the machine. So this is number 18, 17, and then there's another 18 for the other side. So I'm gonna have to bend this tab down until it's at about this angle. And then I'm gonna have to tack this all together, bend these wings out, and then I will weld the inside and weld this, and then I'll just have to weld it onto the machine. So I'll get that bent up. That's pretty close. Yeah, it looks good. Man, first try. Now I'm gonna have to bend these wings out. I don't even have a guess to where those would be, but do something like that. I'll grab the other side and bend it the opposite way. All right, so these are gonna go together something like this. I'll probably have to do some tweaking on these bottom ears, but we'll get it tacked up and just fit it to the machine. All right, I can already tell one of the legs is gonna need tweaked. They definitely don't match, but that's what it's gonna look like. That looks like a pretty good bend there. That's hot as shit. Fit it up here. Okay, it looks like this wing needs to be bent out. This one needs to be bent in. So I'll try that. All right, that's not bad. That's pretty even. All right, I got a lot more grinding to do around here. All right, I'm gonna start welding this up before I actually put it on the machine because it's gonna be a lot easier. In cases like this where you have like a butt joint here, I really wish I had a TIG welder. I don't. I have a smaller MIG welder and then I have a giant MIG welder. We have an arc welder as well, but I really wish I had a TIG. That's in my future plans, but right now I'm focusing on other things, but yeah, just know that these aren't gonna be beautiful. All right, I got this thing all welded up. Didn't come out too terrible. I'm gonna just clean up some of this slag here and I will throw it on. All right, I got the shock mount gusset all welded in. Not too bad. I didn't weld this top part because I'm gonna put these two plates in and then weld them all together right at this seam. Got these two plates all welded up and I tied it in to the gussets below. Yeah. All right, now I'll get to putting in all these gussets. All right, next we have piece number 16. That goes in here. The kit didn't come with bolts, but I want to use some stainless steel fasteners, but these ones are a bit long. I'll probably have to cut them down, so I'm gonna put them in backwards so I can cut them. I'll probably end up flipping them around. I just want to put all the washers and everything I want on them so I know where to cut. I used just a piece of wood and a C-clamp to hold this in place, so I got that gap right. I'm gonna start welding it in. All right, I got it welded up. I'm gonna go ahead and cut these bolts down. All right, I tacked in piece number 13. Now I'm gonna weld it up. Here's the other piece, number 13. All right, next I'm gonna put on number 14. This one goes in here. Get it to sit down nice in there. All right, now that I got that welded in, I'm gonna put the 15s right here. There we go. All right, now all the easy stuff in the back is done. So there's these number 12 pieces. This one's not gonna be too bad. This goes up in here like this. There is a hose in the way, but yeah, that one's gonna be real tough to get to. Probably gonna have to remove some more pieces. So yay there. And then on this bottom, there's these 21s, and they go like this to support your trailing arm here. I guess you can call it a trailing arm, A-arm. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna build a tube that ties in from the top of this to my frame here. I think that'll be a little bit stronger. And then I'm gonna modify this 21 so it fits over here, so I still have this gusset, but also have it gusseted on the frame. This side to install number 12 is way worse. I got this oil canister here and then a bunch of fuel stuff here. And I mean, you can see it, it's all the way back there to try to get to. I don't love welding around fuel lines, but yeah, I'm gonna have to tear down a little bit further to get to those. All right, I made this gusset here. It's gonna mount on top of there and then go here. I marked out the plastic to cut. I marked out just a little bit at first. I'll probably have to go a little bit bigger. I'm not gonna take this firewall off to weld it because there's a lot involved in doing that, but I'm gonna try to guard it as good as possible. All right, I've welded this gusset in out of some tubing that I had. This isn't part of the Rayscar Design kit. I've seen a lot of people say that it needs this brace here. I thought it was a good idea. I did have to trim some of the plastic, and I had to move the seat up and get inside and weld the other side of this tube. Not too bad, but it was a bit of a pain. So this gusset used to go right here. This is number 21. It used to go here. I'm gonna move it over to here just because I put this tube in the way. That way, hopefully it'll be extra strong. All right, I got piece number 12 in place. I'm gonna trim it a little bit so it fits better. I'm gonna try to keep as much heat as I can off these lines here. I got a zip tie that's not holding like I'd hoped. But just try to, I'm only gonna weld this side. I'm not gonna worry about getting under and welding the other side. If I just weld this side, it should be stronger at least. All right, I got number 12 welded in. That one, it's kind of a pain. The bad thing is this is the easy side. Now I gotta go to the other side with the gas lines and everything. I got this tube gusset welded in on this side, matches the other side. Now I'm gonna tack in this 21 piece. And then after that, I just have that awful number 12 piece, the worst one. I used some magnets and scrap steel to block the gas tank. And there's a gas line that goes up this column. It's behind this plate now. So I just used some magnets to hold it up. If you're doing this part, be very careful, please. So this last number 12 piece, I'm actually gonna have to cut this tip off here because it actually hits the mount for this oil can here. So I'm gonna cut it down a little bit. All right, I got piece 12 in place. I'm only gonna weld a few little strips here. I'm gonna put a soaking wet rag over all this gas stuff here. And then I'm gonna put a metal shield over top of that, just to be safe. All right, I got it welded in there, just a few 1-inch strips of weld. I kind of had to stop and go a lot just to keep the heat down. My rag actually did start smoking. It wasn't on fire, but that's probably good enough. It's better than nothing. All right, now the whole kit is installed. Oh, it's a good feeling. These are the only pieces I have left over. These are for when you're not going to relocate the front shocks. These are the supports for the stock front shock mount location. So those aren't used. But yeah, now I'm just going to clean everything up, get it ready to paint. And then I got to start putting it all back together. Man, this was a big job. It's definitely not that bad, but there's lots of parts to take apart. It was a lot of work. I got 3 days into this, and I mean, my garage is an absolute mess. It's insane how much stuff you get out when you're working on something like this. Oh. All right, I think it's gonna go together fairly quick. I put all the bolts in separate bags, labeled what everything is, so should be good. If you want to know what my next mod is going to be, I just got this in the mail. That's it. It's a porthole. You've probably seen these. I'll let you guess what it's for, but I'm going to install this, and this should be a lot easier. Look what just showed up. I'm so excited. It's my CNC plasma table. I'm so excited to get this thing going. It looks a little underwhelming for nearly $4 grand, but I'm excited to get that going. I'll do a quick walk around before I start putting all the plastics back on. So got all the shock tower plates on. Down here, these frame gussets. Here. I added these 2 tubes. That tube. Same thing on the other side. I added these tubes. These gussets here, a gusset up here, these 2 plates, gusset here, the plate in the middle, plate in the back, the shock mount. Yeah, here's the other side, and that gusset up there. So, yeah. I'm glad it's done, and I'm happy that it's going back together. This paint, it's just insane how good it matches. Like, there's a line here where I stopped painting, and I mean, you can barely tell. That stuff matches so good. With these new plates installed, my heat shield doesn't quite fit, so I'm gonna have to trim a little bit off of it. right, I did have to cut a little pocket to go over this bar that I added here. The computer still fits right in here. The wires will cover that. I left some meat on here, so it's got some rigidity still. Doesn't look too bad. I just took a Dremel and opened it up. All right, I had to trim a little bit off this front hood to get it to fit over the relocation brackets. So that's kind of what it looks like. I'm gonna put a piece of rubber padding here so the hood doesn't scrape this up and get it all rusty. I had to trim a little bit of this hood as well, which unfortunately included part of this clip that goes underneath the front and then another clip that went right here. Luckily there is two L-shaped clips down here in the screws, so it's not like it's gonna blow off. If I have any issues with it blowing up, I'll probably put some sort of fastener here and here, but maybe next time at the hardware I'll see if there's something available. But it looks really cool. All right, it's all back together. I got it outside. Got a little bit of the dust wiped off of it. There's so much grinding dust, it's crazy. I noticed just pulling it out of the garage, the front end is a lot higher. I have these wrenches come in to adjust the shocks. I'm gonna get those all adjusted in. I'm gonna take it for a rip around and see, you know, how different it feels, but I know the shocks aren't adjusted right. You have to do some adjusting after you relocate them. But yeah, I'm gonna do another video comparing the relocation to stock, see if I can get them dialed in. I am gonna eventually send my shocks off to Weller to have them redone once I get my long travel kit. But yeah, I think it looks really cool how the shock brackets pop through the hood more. It looks like I got pretty good clearance. I don't know if I'll have to trim any of this. But yeah, if I end up seeing it hit or seeing any wear marks, I'll trim it up. But yeah, it sucks. After all that work, you can only see a little bit of the brackets. But I mean, you can see them in there if you get up under it. And then you can see my absolutely terrible trimming job of the plastic down there. I seen a guy online that trimmed it like this. Some people trim it going up and down. I thought it'd be more hidden if I trimmed it like this. And I thought having these two here would kind of pull this crease together, which was not the case because it's like attached to the bottom skid plate. So I'm gonna do something there to get that a little better. I actually would really like to have a metal fender liner. If anybody knows where I could get something like that, maybe I'd have to have it fabricated. I don't know. I'm not that great with sheet metal fabrication to make it look good like that. But yeah, this bar is sticking out there. Actually, the driver's side, once I got the plastic on, you can't even see it. I did have to trim up under here, so you can see it does go out a little bit, and I had to trim the bottom skid plate. But yeah, it looks awesome. That bar looks really good. Hopefully it doesn't get too many rock chips in it, but I can paint it up, no problem. Yeah, everything else looks good. This Trinity exhaust, I don't know why it's like almost touching the brake light. I think that's terrible design. I'd like to modify it so it sits a little lower. I don't know. Don't love the look of that. But all the bracing looks real sweet though. It's crazy how you can't even notice it after all the work I did. It just kind of blends in, which is good, I guess. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna try not to get too muddy because I got a couple other install videos I'm gonna do, and I'd like it clean for that. And also I'm gonna change all the fluids in this thing because I haven't changed any of the fluids since it's been rolled, so I don't want to run it too long. But yeah, man, this thing's coming along. I like it. Oops. Well, that's great. Well, my brand new light bar, I forgot I just had it loosely mounted up there. I did not do good things to it, that's for sure. Ah, wonderful. I'm an idiot. I got too carried away. I said I was just gonna drive around a little bit. Went a little too hard. All right, everything worked pretty well. The shocks are still mounted on the frame. They didn't fly through the hood, so that's a good thing. I didn't notice any rubbing. I went off the jump a couple times. Everything was good. I did notice that the front suspension is super stiff right now. I'm definitely gonna have to back some of the preload off, I think, or I don't know. It's real stiff. But yeah, I got another video coming up soon where I'm gonna work on the suspension settings and everything, and I'm gonna play with rebound, compressions, all that stuff. So yeah, man, really bummed that I screwed up my light. Just bought that. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. It's a brace kit. It's only useful when you crash or do something stupid, but yeah, as far as the relocation goes, I mean, it didn't help jumping just yet, so hopefully it ends up being worth it. I don't know. All right, that's it for this video. This was a long one. I'm gonna have a lot of editing to do. Luckily for you guys, I think a lot of it will be sped up. All the grinding, welding, putting things together. You're gonna get just a very small portion of all the stuff I had to do. This was a project. And the full frame gusset kit is not something that you absolutely need. I would say you need the rear frame brace. Rayscar Designs does make a rear frame brace kit. That's a weld-in kit, but I bought just the Weller one where it's just a bolt-up kit. And I mean, that was super easy to install. I'd say you need the rear frame brace the most. I just put all this stuff on because if you wreck your YXZ, the front end's known to tweak, and I plan on riding this pretty hard. So if I end up rolling it or, you know, nose diving or something, I want to know that this thing's gonna hold up and I can keep beating on it for even longer. As far as the relocation, I have yet to decide if it's worth it or not. I will do some tuning and everything, and once I get my shocks done, I'll let you know if that's a good decision or not. But luckily, I have all the bracing and gusseting in the front end to go along with the relocation. Some people offer relocation kits and they don't have enough support, so they'll break your shock mounts right off your frame. So you really got to be careful with the front shock relocation. Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I paid roughly $500 for the Rayscar Designs gusset kit and front end relocation. I bought both kits at the same time. You can buy one or the other, but I ended up buying both for 500 bucks. He's got kind of an odd way of paying for the gusset kit. You got to get a hold of him on Facebook and then do PayPal through Facebook messaging. It's not like you can just go add it to the cart somewhere in a website, but yeah, I mean, he did an absolutely great job with fitting up all these parts. They all fit up perfectly. I mean, they're cut great. All the gaps are perfect for welding. I do wish I would have had a TIG welder. I used to work at Michigan International Speedway, welding and fabricating there, and we had just the nicest welders and TIG welders. And at my old mold shop that I used to work at, we had TIG welders there, and I've never actually had one myself in my shop, but I've got to use them at all my other jobs. And man, I really need a TIG welder, but they're so expensive. It hurt me to have to do this with the MIG welder, but that's all I had. But it came out pretty good, you know, for what I had to work with. And yeah, if you like this video, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. That would really help us out. I have a lot of cool modifications coming for this thing, and as you've seen midway through the video, my CNC plasma table got dropped off. That's one reason I don't want to do all the shock tuning and testing right now and put it in this video. I want to get the shop all cleaned up and get that table put together. So yeah, I'm excited about that. If this is your first time on the channel, maybe check out some of our other videos. If you're into the YXZ, we have tons of YXZ videos. I have maintenance, tips and tricks, modifications, trail riding, lots of stuff. We also ride sport quads, snowmobiles, just do a lot of off-roading in general. Yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day. I parked the YXZs nose to nose just because I need to clean this bay after working on the gusset kit, and I want to make room to put together the plasma table. But you can see how much that front end got raised from stock to relocated. That front end's up quite a bit. I just washed this one and now it's all dusty from all my grinding and welding in here. But you can see how much different the front ends look. I think that's pretty cool to see them nose to nose like that. Man, my original one looks so dirty. I am painfully stupid sometimes. I was trying to figure out, like, there's no give to the suspension. I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to loosen these springs up. I was like, I cannot believe how much it stiffened the suspension up. I sat on it and it moved a little bit, but not much. And I'm like, man, but I was sweeping up all this metal that I cut. And I find I left my jack stand standing up. Probably wrecking my gas tank. Sometimes I'm an idiot.